Aloha. I apologize for the traffic. It's rush hour here in Kauai. Today is October the 5th, 2010. I am at the Kealia Cemetery where both Carlos Almaraz, my late husband, and my mom, Maria Flores Valenzuela, have laid to rest. And I'm here October 5th because it is Carlos's birthday. Today, he would have been 69 years young, and he would have so enjoyed that, being the nasty little boy that he was. This grave marker was designed by Jeffrey Valance, an internationally known artist, and one that Carlos mentored. He included many of the icons that Carlos used in his work. We've also inlaid an etching of Echo Park. And Rebecca Rickman, a good friend of ours, wrote this beautiful writing shortly after Carlos's death. I'll read it to you. Carlos Almaraz, October 5th, 1941 through December the 11th, 1989. Loving husband, father, and friend. His vision dominated the world he painted, vibrant like him, pulsating with color and light. Mad dogs, lovers, and fools. Burning cars, pyramids, and palm trees, wondrous and passionate, taking his secrets with him, but leaving many clues behind. Here lies a chap, quick as a cat, and short one life. Carlos wrote that last quote in one of the many journals he's left, many poems that he had written, quite prolific. So I'm here in honor of Carlos, celebrating him. I've brought these amazing tropical flowers from my garden. Such abundance on this little island. Here's my mom, Maria Valenzuela. Oh, her love's a little crooked today. These are made of coral pieces found on the beaches here. And of course, Maria Flores, whose birthday was just a few weeks ago. She and Carlos had a beautiful relationship. They really loved each other very much. Here's our Holy Mother, La Virgen. And I thought I'd talk to you a little bit about our relationship with Carlos. So Carlos and I met in the 1970s when we were both cultural workers for the Chicano movement. Both artists working for the community. And then later we both began to teach at the Cultural Center at Plaza de la Raza in Los Angeles. At which time it was pretty clear to me that Carlos was interested, but I always thought he was just too old. He was 14 years older than I was, and when I was 19 when I first met him, anyone, in the ages of 30 in the 30s seemed suspect to me. So 7 years later, I seemed to have caught up, but mostly it was my mom, gracias Maria, who gave me the high sign. We had a studio. I had a studio above his on Spring Street in downtown Los Angeles, which he encouraged me to rent. He was creating a movement to bring all the artists downtown. So when I did rent that studio, one day my car had broken down after work at Plaza, and my mom dropped me off. And Carlos was always voyeuristic. He loved peering out his window. And one day when she dropped me off, he was there, looking out his window. And I pointed him out to my mom, and I said, "Mom, see that man up there? He likes me, but he's so old." And she replied in Spanish, "Son los mejores," meaning they're the best. So I took that sign and I agreed to date him, and the rest is history. After about 6 months of dating, Carlos decided to move in with me. He moved in on the day that John Lennon was shot. He said there was just no time to waste. Life was too fragile, too fleeting. He had struggled with his bisexuality for many, many years. He had been molested by a priest and an uncle, and underwent 20 years of therapy, wanting to establish a healthy heterosexual relationship and have a family and a child. So once he acquired all of that and then succumbed to the ravages of AIDS, which only took 2 years to end his life, he felt that all that he had dreamed of was finally his and now taken away. And the little Catholic boy decided, for a brief time, that it was because he was a sinner. Carlos was a world student of religions. Towards the end of his life, the Dalai Lama gave him blessings. So he knew better, yet the little boy felt like a sinner until, thank God, the last few hours of his life where he came full circle to reappreciate the beauty that he was, to love himself once again, fully, unconditionally, and to love everyone around him. I'm glad that he found that peace, that self-acceptance in his life before leaving. We had a wonderful, wonderful courtship and partnership for 10 years, not long enough before he passed of AIDS in 1989. Miraculously, I did not contract the virus after 7 years of unprotected sex, and neither did my daughter, so I believe that it was just not my path and there's work for me to do here. We miss him terribly. He was at the forefront of the Chicano art movement, a very beloved leader of that movement, very worldly, well-traveled. He was an artistic and academic genius and very charismatic and articulate. So his loss was very, very great on many, many levels. Such a wonderful man, a mentor to so many artists, such a crack-up. Oh my goodness, he was a trickster par excellence. He loved joking around and clowning around, and is often depicted in his work. So, here lies a chap, quick as a cat, and short one life, and we miss you so much, Carlos. I honor you always, and love you forever. So Carlos was on the verge of making it internationally. He was being recognized nationally as the American artist he always dreamed of becoming and being acknowledged. He lived in New York for many, many years as a young artist. His spirit was broken in New York City by the temperament of the time, minimalist art movement of the time, conceptual art movement, because really Carlos was an imagist. He was a painter and he was a master colorist. I learned a great deal from him. I'm working on a documentary film of his life because it was quite dramatic, having died once before, 20 years prior to his final death, when he was laying in the LA County Hospital from acute pancreatitis, having drank himself practically to death. Having received last rites, was in a coma for 40 days and 40 nights, and encountered quite a few amazing beings that took him to travel across the universe and gave him 3 options to return to this life: as a newborn baby, as himself, or as an old black man named Charlie. So for the past several years, I have been working on a documentary film project on Carlos's life and work. I was in collaboration with a film partner who disappeared on me, and At that point, I decided to recreate myself and began to paint again. But the work will continue. This film will be made. I look forward to my continued work on this and to share with the world the amazing stories to tell. Carlos left about 85 journals, which can be seen at the Smithsonian Institute's Archives of American Art. You can see some of that online. My interviews are also online, my oral history with the Archives of American Art. So I'd share that with you if you're interested in reading them. One thing that was very special about Carlos as a leader of the Renaissance for us Chicanos at the time was that he was so worldly. He had been to Europe, he had been to China, he had been to Cuba, he had traveled, he had lived in New York City as an artist and worked as an artist. There was so much information he brought back after his rebirthing as a born-again Chicano, shortly after his release from the County General Hospital, his near-death experience, where he did leave his body and hover and walk through the tunnel of light. He said death was sublime. He had no fear of death. He wanted to stay in that place, but knew he had to return. So at the time of his death from AIDS in 1989, Carlos had no fear of death. What he feared was leaving myself and my daughter Maya, our daughter Maya, behind. That was what pained him the most. I haven't found anyone like him, and I know I won't, and I'm not comparing anyone else to him or expecting anybody like him to enter my life again. But I know that I loved deeply and joyfully in a harmonious relationship once before, and it can happen again, and it will. So thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. See that heart there? Yay. Thank you. His work continues to be loved and exhibited. There will be books and movies and retrospectives ahead. Mocha at the moment is hoping to put together a retrospective of his work, which is long overdue. He has thousands and thousands of amazing pieces out in the world. They need to be shown. So the Museum of Contemporary Art in Los Angeles would be a fitting place to have that happen. Estas son las mañanitas que cantaba Rey David a los muchachos bonitos, se los cantamos aquí. Despierta, mi bien, despierta, mira que ya amaneció, y a los pajarillos cantan, la luna ya se metió. Yes, Carlos and I were very, very happy, very, very happy. But for not enough years. 10 years is just not enough. But you know what? I'm grateful for those 10 years. I'd go through all the sorrow and the tragedy and the ugliness of this disease anytime. I'd do it again to have had that time with him. Such magic. Such an urban shaman that he was. Sharing his gifts with me, but taking his secrets with him.